Hey guys, glad to have you back. Thanks for tuning in. I have on the line Chris Emery. He's the VP of Marketing at Freemind Films. He's also the producer of the new film Shadowring, which features Ben Swan, Gerald Celente, G. Edward Griffin, Aaron Dykes, Chuck Baldwin, Mark Passio, Jim Mars, Joyce Riley, Catherine Albrecht, just to name a few. And it's a fantastic film, which I highly recommend everybody see. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate the invite.
Hey, it's my thrill to have you on, and I should tell you, as serendipity would have it, I just interviewed for the second time James Perloff, who wrote this movie for you, and now here you are talking about Shadowring. We hadn't even planned it that way. Ironic, huh?
It happens more often than not, even with the production of all three of our films. Good synchronicity. It always helps out.
Well, and I want to mention your other films because they're fantastic wake-up calls. A Noble Lie, Oklahoma City, 1995. Of course, that one is about the federal Murrah bombing. That building was blown up in a false flag operation. And of course, you followed that up in 2012 with State of Mind, The Psychology of Control. And now this new film, Shadowring, which I just watched. It's a real epic piece of work, Chris. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. And we are very excited in the process of securing distribution on a worldwide level, taking it to a completely different level than we did on our first two films. And the opportunity's there. We just got to grab onto it tight and make sure it works.
Well, one of my impressions when I was watching the film and I was realizing about 15 minutes into it, I'm like, man, I recognize this voiceover. I realized then it was Kevin Sorbo, who I actually met once years ago. I was a TV producer, and he was doing the show Hercules, I think, wasn't it?
Yes, he did two blockbuster shows. Hercules Legendary Journeys was filmed in New Zealand for about 7 years. And then he followed up, took about a year break, and then he was on the Andromeda series, sci-fi, which was actually Roddenberry's series that in the timetable was 150 years into the future after Star Trek. Roddenberry never got to produce it since he had passed on, but his wife had it through the trust that Roddenberry had left, and she called Kevin Sorbo on the phone and personally asked him to play the role of James T. Kirk's character 150 years in the future. Knocked it out of the park for 5 years. The ratings went right through the roof.
Well, and he's a phenomenal guy, too. I happen to know he's a Christian, and, he's not afraid to get behind projects like this. And when I was watching the movie and listening to Kevin's voice, I just realized that truth has gone mainstream to a large degree, thanks to filmmakers like you, the internet, all of the alt media sites out there that just continue to grow, like SGT Report and others. It's an exciting time to be alive and to actively fight against these shadowring powers.
Exactly. And Kevin came on board by way of two people that are on our crew. Marcy Anderson, who actually handled the merchandising for his work when he was on Hercules Legendary Journeys, still has the rights to that merchandising, never sold it to Paramount. And to this day, she's still able to make money on that and turn it over in a good way. She donates to a lot of charities. And then it was Mary Ellen Moore, our director of public affairs. They were the two that were instrumental in bringing him on board. We sent him the script, and James Perloff had come on board with us, and we were still fleshing it out. And we gave him, I think, half the script, and he called me back. I'll never forget this. He was at the produce aisle of a Trader Joe's in West Hollywood, and he said, "Look, I'm on board." And I couldn't believe it. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, he calls me on my cell phone and says, "When could we get this tape?" Well, that was in May of 2014. We finally got the studio time lined up and flew out there, and Mary Ellen and Marcy Joe and Austin Green, our CEO, met him in studio out there for 2 days in September, and he knocked it out of the park.
Well, and he's actually made a move into some movies that are appealing to Christians. A recent one he was in that I saw with my family, God's Not Dead, was very powerful. His performance was very effective, very powerful, and that film did extremely well. And now we're seeing more and more of these Christian, family-friendly movies coming out. It's sort of the antithesis of everything Hollywood has represented up to this point.
Exactly. And, and unfortunately, you have to admit, they go where the money is, and they also see the draw. And a lot of these directors are actually coming on board. Granted, a lot of the projects don't have a lot of money on the budget, and they are willing to take a cut because they know the message is there, and they're able to make an enormous amount of money on the back end of the projects. For instance, it is public knowledge now, even on IMDb, God's Not Dead cost just under $1.8 million to shoot. It was done at a state university in Louisiana, and it grossed. Let's see, last time I talked to Kevin about that was, what is this, May was in November last year. It grossed upwards of $120 million, and they haven't even touched international distribution at that
Hmm.
point.
Hmm.
So yeah, it
It's
just went crazy.
It's fantastic. It actually gives me goosebumps because it makes me realize that the hunger for spiritual truth is alive and well in this country and around the world. People are hungry for the
Mhm.
antithesis of the satanic agenda that comes out of Hollywood. And not every Hollywood movie is terrible. Not every Hollywood movie has a satanic agenda, but so many of them do, and so many of them are blatantly satanic
Right.
in their
Exactly.
in their.
So when with Shadowring, what we tried to accomplish was, and it's based on James Perloff's two books, and he probably elaborated on the interview last night. I hadn't had a chance to hear it, but in fact, I've got it here on my bookshelf as we're interviewing. Let me pull it off here. We've got Shadows of Power and the all of that book, and then the first seven chapters of Truth as a Lonely Warrior, which was his follow-up. Shadows of Power was published in 1988. His follow-up in 2013. Best-selling books. And so what we did, he already had a PowerPoint presentation put together for Shadows of Power, and that was the basis for the start of the film. And but it ended up fleshing out to about a 6 hour movie. Well, there's no way we can market 6 hours. So through conference calls and emails and so forth, we were able to. James helped us get it down to what the director's cut is, I believe, 2 hours and 17 minutes. Now, here's a gold nugget for your listeners. We haven't released the theater cut, which is actually an hour and 47 minutes. A&E and History Channel asked us to cut it down to take off about 30 minutes and do it in what they call a TV treatment, put it in 4 different episodes. It really caught the attention of those two networks because they liked the message. It wasn't overboard. It wasn't in your face. We weren't kicking people around or making accusations. We presented the facts as we know it. And James Perloff did an immense amount of work and just an absolutely wonderful job of researching. It's solid. It's well documented. So that's another reason Kevin came on board because he studied up on James and saw what James had done in the past. And like I said, I get that call that afternoon at 2 o'clock, and he says, "I'm on board." He loved the way James is doing his work. So the whole message is, look, we just want to give you the tools to think. We don't have any legal standing as a film crew. We're not making accusations. We don't want to get anybody in jail or indictments or grand juries or anything like that. This is hardcore historical fact. And hopefully we presented it in a context that, number one, was easy to understand, and number two, gives you the ability to think for yourself, both children, all ages, cross-generational, and to have the tools to think for yourself and to hopefully make some changes. And you start on the local and county level with that.
Yeah, and the film lays all of that out very beautifully. The film's extremely well done. I want people to know they can watch Shadowring right now, video on demand on Vimeo. I think it's about $8.99. You guys can go to freemindfilms.com and you can watch any of their films, including the previous couple that I mentioned, and Shadowring. Or you could buy a copy if you'd want to buy a DVD or two for family and friends. Well, actually, let me ask you about this. I didn't know that A&E and History Channel had shown interest. So often we see those particular networks giving the government account of certain events. For instance, 9/11. We constantly will see 9/11 films on A&E and History Channel that only support the government version of events. So has Shadowring already played on those networks?
No, it has not. In fact, this was with a distributor that we had were talking to for about 3 months last year. They have since backed out. There were some other issues that we had to iron out with them. We couldn't come to an agreement. But the fact of the matter was that we had the producers from both of those networks take a look at the actually the director's cut, the longer version. And then, of course, they said they wanted us to take about 30 minutes off to condense it. And there were some parts in the movie that we elaborate on certain issues that, by virtue of the way they have to, carve it out for their programming, they just couldn't fit the some of the elaboration in. So we were just very well received and very surprised. But like you said, in case in point, with Onobalai, Oklahoma City, 1995, we we were on Netflix, 90-day contract, got kicked off after 3 days because it was too controversial. So in the context of the way we were treated for that film, that's why we were very surprised that A&E and History Channel were very receptive on Shadowring.
Mm-hmm.
Shadowring, we go back 110 years, and we pretty much stopped right at the Vietnam War. We really didn't elaborate so much on the Gulf War. Uh, and of course, having the Hollywood actor Kevin on board. But the story about Oklahoma City and the Noble Eye film, our film agent in LA was not happy. He'd been dealing with Netflix for about 8.5 years at that point, And the way Netflix works, and I hope I'm doing okay on time here. I don't want to take up too much.
No, you're
They
fine.
bring you on for 90 days. They see how the numbers shake out. If you're getting a lot of hits on Netflix, you're really generating a lot of traffic, then they'll go ahead after 90 days and renew you for another 90 days or 6 months, depending on how strong your numbers are. Well, we didn't even get out of the chute after 3 days. We found out through some back channels in Santa Monica, through an agent that our agent worked with. They were collaborating to get us on Netflix. That Netflix got a phone call. We don't know who, but probably within the intelligence community, quite possibly at the White House. We don't know, but they were told to take it down. Simple as that. It's just the way they do business. So, and I got a message. I'll never forget this. A buddy of mine in Sydney, Australia. I was over there working on a short project. He says, "Hey, your film's off of Netflix," and I'm thinking, "What the heck?" So that's when I got on the horn. I woke my agent up at 4 o'clock in the morning, local time, LA time, and he's a night owl anyway. And he says, "Yeah," he says he found out 10 minutes before then, and he was not happy because he knew that he really postured us and set us up to make a lot of money on this, and of course he would have made a lot of money on it too. So that's just the way the darn media industry works. So we moved on, and luckily we were able to get networks such as Infowars, sent it out, and it's just amazing. 27 different countries it's sold in. So we really got our good due on there, and the recognition with the film festivals after that for another 2 years. So
Good.
you know, yeah, Netflix is they are who they are. So
Good. Well deserved. And, being a producer for years and years myself, I know how time consuming and what a labor of love it is to make a film like this. And again, you have so many fantastic truth tellers in it, people whose trees bear fruit. These are the people that we interview too. I've spoken to Gerald Salenti many times, J.
oh
Edward
yeah,
Griffin, Aaron Dykes I've had on the show, talked to many of these people, Chuck Baldwin. These are the truth tellers that can shine the light on the cockroaches that have usurped the Constitution, one of those cockroaches being David Rockefeller. And you have a quote at the top of your site here: everything is in place after 500 years to build a true new world in the Western Hemisphere. Of course, the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds want their new world order and their global government. And in the film, you guys explain that Rockefeller's Council on Foreign Relations, which was founded in 1921, has
hmm
produced, guys, listen to this, since 1921, the CFR has produced 21 Secretaries of War and Defense, 19 U.S. Treasury Secretaries, 18 Secretaries of State, and 16 CIA directors. Now, Chris, does that not sound like the shadow government to you?
oh yeah. It's they got run of the table. It's a stacked deck. So and people have emailed us even after this film released, and they said, "Well, what do we do?" He says, well, just, the same answers we had after 9/11 in Oklahoma City. You've got to go back to the local level. The only way we give these people power is if we let them. We, shut down their networks. Don't watch the TV. Get off of network TV. Don't buy into a lot of their banking. Whatever their main income streams are, just get away from them. Walk away from them, and take their power away. And you do that on a local and on the county level. So we try to also offer to solutions to the situations we present. But you're right; these people are insidious. They're just evil to the core, and you just got to distance yourself away from them as best as you can.
Yeah, one of the other things that occurred to me when I was watching the film today is that you and I and the listeners are on the cusp of the potential for a new human liberty. And the reason I say that is because my parents and my grandparents and those who came before them knew none of this. They didn't know any of this information. They didn't know about the Council on Foreign Relations. They didn't know about false flag terror that has led us into war after war after war. They didn't know that even when JFK was assassinated, most of those people bought the official story. They had to believe in a magic bullet to swallow the official story, and
Sure.
they did. So many of them willingly did. This new generation of awake, like-minded individuals, the listeners of this program, the viewers of your film, this is a new generation. This is a new time for humanity where, because we know the truth, we stand a chance.
And we're having the internet and the technology work in our favor now. I get emails from people downloading this film on their iPhone when they're waiting for a flight, or they're on the tarmac in an airplane or at a restaurant or whatever. And it's from all over the world. The feedback is amazing, and we're very humbled. We don't take this for granted. Interviews such as yours, you asked me to come on, and it's like, wow, yeah, absolutely. I just got to try to fit it in my schedule. So We have to get the truth out bit by bit. And hopefully we're, as they say, you're trying to turn the Queen Mary around. This is a big ship to turn around, make people more aware. Hopefully we're doing, at least contributing to that effort.
I want to ask you this about the Council on Foreign Relations. As recounted by Chuck Baldwin at 41 minutes into your film, Chuck lists some of the well-known members of the CFR, and they are key establishment names in politics and media. I've talked about this on interviews in the past as well, listed some of the key names of people in the media out there. Do you feel, as I do, that those people collecting multi-million-dollar paychecks to read essentially the CFR talking points on CNN, Fox News, and other avenues, do you believe those people are traitors?
I would think so. And in fact, I called one of them on their bluff after Oklahoma City came out. He was a major producer with Fox TV out of Dallas. And he says, look, the paycheck's too good. He says, my kids are in private school. Went down the whole laundry list of why he did it. I says, well, I'm glad that you can look yourself in the mirror every morning, regardless of where you get your paycheck, and say, this is okay. I says, this is okay. It's far from okay. And he admitted he was a traitor. But, the money was too good. And thinking, wow, you talk about debauchery and just the complete disembowelment of your morals. There's
Mm-hmm.
nothing there. You're a shell. You're just a tool. And so, yes, I think they are traitors.
It's amazing that people are so easily willing to sell their souls and sell themselves out to this New World Order globalist power for money, for paper money. It's astounding to me because the Council on Foreign Relations, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, these banking families, the Federal Reserve, these people have blood on their hands like no other group in the history of the world. These are the people that have taken us into war after war after war, as I discussed with James Perloff in that interview that I posted on Sunday night. Just about every war this nation has entered has been on the back of a lie.
Exactly. And early on when we were doing this film, I just happened to have somebody who contacted me about doing a film on the Vatican. My God, there's the abyss right there.
Yeah.
And you go way back to the Rossi family, the Medicis, and they were the predecessors to the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds says, "Wow, it worked so well for the Rossi and the Medicis. Let's take this to a whole new level." And they were ruthless. They made money on both sides of the conflict, regardless if the Romans were at war with, the Saxons or the Gauls or whomever. They were funding both sides. So it was a tried and true method. And like I said, the Rothschilds, and you get your Mellons, your Morgans, your Carnegies, and the Rockefellers. It never ends. Just a different set of people.
They are playing, as you say in the movie, and I've said in other interviews, they are playing chess multiple levels ahead of us. The rest of humanity is playing checkers.
Exactly.
But it's films like yours that are helping people to understand the chess game that's being played at the highest levels. And, when I mention the Council on Foreign Relations, which you do focus on in this film for a while and help really define it and dissect it, today it's almost become passé in the truth movement to talk about the CFR because it's common. It's in our nomenclature. We know what it is. Now, if you go back 10 years, when so many of us were waking up after 9/11, we didn't know what the CFR was. We didn't know what the Trilateral Commission was. We didn't know what Bilderberg Group was. But now we do, and so it seems almost passé to discuss it. But it's very, very important to understand that the Council on Foreign Relations has hijacked, I think as Aaron Dykes said in this movie, has hijacked the engine of America. And I want to play this well-known sound clip of Hillary Clinton thanking the CFR for giving her marching orders. Listen to this.
Thank you very much, Richard, and I am delighted to be here in these new headquarters. I have been often to, the mothership in New York City, but it's good to have an outpost of the council right here down the street from the State Department. We get a lot of advice from the council, so this will mean I won't have as far to go to be told what we should be doing and how we should think about the future.
Now, if that doesn't make people's hair stand on end, isn't that powerful? Isn't that
shocking, and it's actually very scary. And the fact that she has the temerity and the mitigated gall to ask us to vote for her to be our next president, she should be in federal prison right now. So that's a testament to her insidiousness and the fact that she's not even qualified remotely to lead us in a moral. There's no moral standing there. It's completely bankrupt.
Thank you for saying that. I have said the same thing. This woman should be in federal prison. If there were any justice, if there were any rule of law left in this nation, she would be behind bars. But of course, she's a globalist. She is protected by these people that have hijacked the engine of America, and that's why this media, again, so many of them members of the Council on Foreign Relations, will continue to perpetuate the myth that she is a viable candidate running a great campaign and that she really cares about America, when those of us who are awake know she is a liar with blood on her hands from Benghazi to Syria to Libya. She is an international war criminal.
If I may, and to add on to that list, she has blood on her hands regarding Oklahoma City. How do I know? Because I have given access to uh, former documents, former aides, I should say, to the governors and the attorney general's office in Arkansas. And she should have been in prison many, many years before Bill was even, even considered to be president. But that's another story, another movie for another time. So it just, I don't even listen to her. I just, my stomach turns in knots when I see her on TV, knowing who she is and what her history is.
You know, you mentioned InfoWars and how the success of your Oklahoma City film, A Noble Lie, how they helped make your film, A Noble Lie, a success, and it was an avenue for getting the film out there. They broke news a few years back, before Obama became president, actually. They broke news that the Bilderberg Group met privately with Obama and Hillary, and the Bilderberg Group said, Obama's the guy this year. 8 years later down the road, it'll be Hillary's turn. And despite all her crimes, her absolutely documented crimes, the FBI wants to hang this woman. But of course, the DOJ, the Department of Justice, will get in the way to prevent that. This woman may well become president. So your film couldn't be any more relevant today, because here we are with Trump, I think, versus Hillary. And we know Hillary is an avowed globalist New World Order puppet.
Exactly. And I want to let your listeners know, and not many people do, I approached the Florida campaign manager for Donald Trump. He cleaned the competition's clock down here, and I'm actually down there temporarily on an assignment for our fourth film. We're trying to ramp up, and I talked to her, and I said, "Look, can I send you the director's cut? We had a 6-minute cut we put together for Film Market in Santa Monica last year." She took a look at it, responded within 24 hours. She says, "You guys did a phenomenal job on this film." She says, "The challenge is, how are we going to couch this thing? How can we posture this to work within Mr. Trump's campaign?" Well, they were still on the rocks. They weren't quite sure if they were going to be moving ahead. Lots has happened since the Florida primary. So I got an email into her again, and actually texted her aide, and hopefully we'll be able to at least maybe get an edited version of this film to help them out. So when we get the blessing of the Trump campaign, it says a lot. And he does have shades of Ron Paul. I got to admit this. He's not as eloquent and so forth, but there are elements that he saw, and I did get this through a back channel to their campaign, that they respected Ron Paul enough, and they saw what worked for him, and the fact that he got basically screwed over here in Tampa in 2012, and they're taking elements of what worked for Ron Paul and putting in his campaign. So anyway, that's a tidbit out there. Like I said, we're still trying to secure that, and hopefully we'll be able to make some ground with them.
Well, that's fantastic, and I just want to say one thing as it relates to Donald Trump. There are some hardcore readers and listeners of SGT Report who stand in opposition to Trump, claiming that he is, because he's a billionaire, he too is bought and paid for, or certainly in the pockets of the globalists. And I just want to say, for the record, at this point, it's very important that everybody keep an open mind and do some research, because as far as I can tell, Chris, Trump is not a member of the Council on Foreign Relations.
That was another key. In fact, one of our investors suggested I talk to him, and I thought, wow, where did that come from out of left field? And I found out, he's not even on the CFR list, so that was a huge plus to start with. And then when I got the response I did from them, it was even better. So you're right.
Yeah, and not only is he not a member of the CFR, as we know, Catherine Albrecht, who's in your film, mentions the fact that the Council's journal, Foreign Affairs, has been pushing for a world government since day one. The middle class has been decimated, and as she says, you don't get a world government overnight. So you take a look at UN Agenda 21, NAFTA, TPP, it's this creeping slippery slope towards global tyranny, all of which Donald Trump stands opposed to.
Exactly.
And that's a very important distinction, because we know Hillary is bought and paid for. If she gets in the White House, Chris, we know exactly what we're going to get. He's not a globalist, it appears to me.
No, and that's why, and this is really unbelievable. I think it borderlines insanity to see how the Republican Party, the establishment, is willing to implode the party at the expense of getting Donald Trump out as a nominee. And I'm thinking, wow, he's really having these guys run scared. They're running for the doors and they don't know what to do. I mean, this is he's a whole different caliber, a whole different uh, threat than Ron Paul ever was. They showed Ron Paul the door with a change in some of the procedural votes, which in itself was completely insane. They're taking this thing they're doing to Trump to a completely different level, and that shows that they know that he's a credible threat, that he does have the power to make some changes, and there's no way until hell freezes over that they're going to let that happen.
Yeah, they're wiring the GOP to be able to detonate it from within, just like they did World Trade Center 7 on 9/11, and it's all because Trump is not part of the CFR. He hasn't signed the blood oath. Chris, I know we're running short on time here, so I just want to shout out again, how do people watch this film? How do they buy it? How do they support you guys at Free Mind Films?
Just simply log on to freemindfilms.com. You have the option of buying the DVD. There's still a market segment out there that likes the hardcover or hard copy DVD. We have 3 retailers listed: the Power of Prophecy, the Power Hour, and of course the John Birch New American Magazine. They're wonderful retail customers of ours. If you prefer to do it on the VOD, video on demand, you can download that within 5 minutes on almost any device you have. That's $8.99. And you'll have unlimited access to Vimeo to watch the film. Now, once again, the theater cut is 30 minutes shorter than the director's cut, which is actually on DVD and on Vimeo. We are working through various distributors in Hollywood and overseas to get that out. Once that happens, Sean, I will keep in touch with you. We could come back and do a re-interview and let you know how things are going there.
Yeah, please do. And give my best to executive producer Mary Ellen Moore, who I know originally we wanted to get on this call, and the 3 of us, we couldn't get our schedules to sync up. And like I said, it was just through serendipity, Chris, that we got you on today. And on Sunday, I posted that interview with the writer of this film, James Perloff, who's become a good friend to SGT Report and who writes excellent books. And boy, this thing was well written. So again, congrats, Chris, and thanks for all you're doing to wake up humanity.
Well, thank you. And if I may ask you, send me the links to both James's interview, and then when you get this one wrapped up and finalized and after post, I will go ahead and send it out. We've got 5 Facebook pages I'm in charge of, plus Twitter, and I want to get you some ground exposure on this. Okay?
Oh, thank you. I really, really appreciate that. And you're a good guy, Chris. I appreciate you coming on today and taking the time to speak with our audience about your new film, Shadowring. Guys, please do support the filmmakers. freemindfilms.com is the website. Our guest has been Chris Emery. Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you, and look forward to coming back. Be good.
Yeah, I look forward to it too. And guys, thanks for your support at sgtreport.com, and have a terrific week ahead. God bless.